Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann.
This is Steiny.
Now, this is going to be weeks after this happened, obviously, so it's not exactly fresh.
Okay.
But let's talk about Johnny Gaudreau. Johnny Hockey.
Oh, man, that was crazy.
Matthew.
Yeah. Oh, man, I was heartbroken.
So, if you're living under a rock, Johnny Hockey, as he was known,
Yep.
was a member of the Columbus Blue Jackets, but he's more prominently known as being the heart and soul of the Calgary Flames franchise for many years.
Yeah, he was
they
there
drafted
for a long
him.
time. Yep.
Johnny was a good dude. He was a father. He was a husband. He worked in the community. He never had any controversy. He was a solid guy. And what happened, unfortunately, is that he and his brother Matthew were riding bikes on a country road, unfortunately in the dark, and that a driver who was inebriated tried to bypass two other cars. He tries to pass them on the left, and they're moving over because the bikes are on the right.
Yes.
And he's like, fuck this. So he swerves to the right,
That's what it was.
nails them and kills them.
Yep.
And this is especially tragic because the next day they were set to be groomsmen in their sister's wedding that then was rescheduled because, holy shit, we're planning two funerals.
Yeah, and they were in town. They were in New Jersey for that, specifically for the wedding. They weren't even there for any other reason, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and adding a layer of more sadness to this, besides the fact that they both were already dads, both of their wives are pregnant.
Oh, I didn't realize that aspect of it, too.
Johnny's wife, they have, I think, a 2-year-old and an 8-month-old or some shit. And she's pregnant again. And Matthew's wife, I don't know how many kids he had, but she's pregnant. So now these are kids, all of them, for the most part. Let's just assume, without me going to Professor Google to get the numbers here on Matthew Gaudreau's family, let's say all these kids are under the age of 4. You don't normally start to formulate memories until around 3. So they're never really going to know their dads.
No.
He was a consummate professional, and he and his brother were both very well liked amongst their peers and coaches. I mean, they were, although Matthew not in the NHL, he played minor leagues and stuff, but both these guys were highly regarded as being consummate professionals. And Johnny himself was like somebody you could pin that NHL logo on and say, dude, be our spokesperson because you're a great role model.
Clean, you know, like you said, not a controversy, nothing about him.
Yeah, he's not Evander Kane.
No, gosh, no.
Who keeps having issue after issue with gambling and debts and divorce and cheating and all this fucking shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now the guy that hit them, they felt the need. His lawyer was like, he's a veteran and he's a father and he's this and that. But it's like, dude.
Okay, well, no, there's a story on both sides. Yeah.
You killed 2 people, so none of that matters. And you did it for nothing other than being an impatient dick behind the wheel, and you were drinking and driving.
What all those details about the other guy say to me, you know, he was a father, he was a veteran, that just makes it that much more tragic to me on both sides. You know what I mean?
Because he was somebody that might have been a good person.
And now his family's affected. You know what I mean? He's going to go away from his family. They're going to miss out on him. So, yeah, it's a tragedy for everybody involved. But you're right. He killed 2 people.
Recklessly, negligent. Behind the wheel like he did. And they're not giving him bail. They said he can sit there until trial, which has to super suck because his family instantly lost him too. I mean, this is not just like...
Yeah.
I get that as a professional sports player, and you have fan bases that latch on to players. And when something tragic happens, like back in the day with Danny Heatley killing Dan Snyder.
That was crazy.
Right? Yeah. Danny had to fucking live with that. He's still living with that.
Yeah.
And Dan Snyder's fucking family are like... You were his friend, and this is tragic. Like, they weren't like, you son of a bitch. Like, they were hurt, but they forgave him in an effort to help him forgive himself.
Yeah, because he was really tore up. I mean, I do remember one thing about that is he emotionally was tore up about that for quite a while.
And the point here is that families are shattered. Like, teams lost a player or players in both those situations. You know, Johnny's gone. It sucks. And immediately the morning that the news broke, like, I'm sitting around on my computer and somebody broke a story on Twitter, made a comment like, oh yeah, Johnny Gaudreau died. drunk driver hit him. And people are like, don't fucking joke about that. That better not be a joke. And it took so fucking long. I mean, we're talking only like 8 hours until it was verified.
Oh, sure.
But like all that night, the league didn't say shit. The team didn't say shit.
It was a local newspaper, the Columbus Dispatch, that initially broke the story.
But there's already people dropping off flowers and memorializing him outside the Blue Jackets arena. He was beloved. Sure. So again, families broken, lost their dads. 3 families lost their dads here.
Yeah.
To your point, let's not forget about the driver. But he did that, and this is why I'm bringing it up, because shortly after that, around these parts, I forget, is it St. Louis Park where the Park Tavern is?
Oh, yes, it is.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about. I think it's off of Highway 7.
So, drunk guy plows into the patio of this place, kills a worker and a nurse that was a part of a larger group that was out celebrating or something.
Either way, people died because of drunken negligence, and now you've got somebody that took a life. And I like to explore criminal justice and the quandaries of morality therein. I know I say a lot of, let's just give him the chair, let's just fucking hang him, let's just kill everybody.
Well,
and you try to be the voice
do.
of reason. Yeah. And I try to pose it as, well, you took a life. You don't respect life. You don't deserve life. In this instance, let's not go for the easy, you took 2 lives, or you took a life, you don't deserve your own. Now, these people are going to rot. And the guy with the Park Tavern thing had a history. This is not his first fucking dalliance with drunk driving.
No, I think I heard that too. Yeah.
So how many people have had their lives shattered that from drunk driving accidents? Not just dying, but being grievously injured, and your life is never the same. And we keep saying, we need to do more. We need to do more. And you keep dropping the fucking blood alcohol concentration percentage to get a DUI. But all that's done is take an epidemic of DUIs and turn it into a fucking pandemic of DUIs in this state alone. I mean, my friend at Menards got a Dewey on Halloween back in the day, and he had WZ plates. That was the first run of whiskey plates in Minnesota.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
We called them the Was Up plates. I had to drive us to lunch so many times. Well, he had the Was Up plates. And, there's 26 letters in the alphabet. So W, another letter, and then 0001 through 9999. They're in their 3rd or 4th cycle of that in 20 years. That's how many fucking DUIs get handed out for drinking and drugs and other shit. And it's ridiculous to think how many people have been killed, have been hurt, have just crashed and got lucky enough to only fuck up their car. But still, people don't fear the consequences enough. So my question that I'm posing here is, if we're not going to automatically take the life of someone that takes lives, which is, yes, the simple thing, but to me that is true restorative justice. You got drunk, you made a bad decision, you killed somebody. Why do you get to live? Even if it's a shitty life behind bars, like, they get to suffer. No, fuck that. We don't even know if there's an afterlife. Imagine a judge like, no appeals, you did it, dead to rights, we got you. Boom, you're getting executed in 3 days if we did it like China. Imagine how that would shock the system of people, you would think, to a degree. It wouldn't like wipe it out, no. But now, there's people that get enough Deweys that lose their license for 10 fucking years that then will rack up numerous driving after revocation suspension or driving canceled IPS. It's not stopping them. No. So now, what if you get a Dewey and you cause an accident and you lose your license for 10 years, even if it's your first?
Harsher punishment right from the get-go is what you're saying.
Ignition interlock requirements alone are not enough because that's a fucking business. It's a trap. That was designed by some fucking nerd and funded by lawyers, and lawyers own that shit and got a cut from the state now to sell it to them, just like DWI Ride Home back in the day.
Oh, sure, yeah.
These programs, they get funding from the state, and then it just gets diluted because the state doesn't know how to handle it, and they turn it into a cash cow, and they're more worried about the dollar than the impact.
It's interesting that we have this blended market of tax dollars and private business. You know what I mean? Same with the military and all the private contracts and stuff like that. But still, in this country, we have this whole thing about you make a mistake, You serve the punishment. There should be forgiveness. You should be free to kind of continue on, right? And I think for a lot of people, that does have an effect. You know what I mean? There are people that get one. Maybe they don't realize it. I've actually had a lot of friends, you included, who never drink and drive. I don't drink hardly at all anymore. I mean, hardly at all.
Can we bring it up? You've had
2. Yep. I've technically had one when I was 22, 23 in there. And then the other one I got when I was like 35, 36.
That one was really unfortunate because you were trying to drive somebody else home that was drunker.
Yes, yeah. And we had gone out to celebrate my finishing X-ray school and hadn't ate all day. And yeah, he was hanging out, having more drinks, and then I drove him back down Highway 65, which is like the corridor of asking to get pulled over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you learned from it.
I did.
And you said you don't really drink anymore.
I don't. And the thing, ironically, at that point in time, I was not much of a drinker. And I think that's part of the reason why I didn't really realize that what I drank had gotten me over the limit. Because I had really stopped a lot of that.
Wasn't it barely over the limit?
Yeah, I was like, well, it's 0.08 now, and I think I was like a 0.10. So I would have probably been right at the line in the old limit way back in the day.
So like I said, if you get one and you cause an accident, not just getting pulled over in your 0.082 or some shit like that.
Right.
Not that ticky-tacky. That's also fucking stupid. Stop doing that, please. But if you cause an accident, even if there's no injury, you've caused the accident. And we're a no-fault state.
Yeah.
But if you're drunk and you veer over the center line and hit somebody, you're getting that fucking Dewey and you're getting the blame. And your insurance is having to pay for their car. So you lose your license. 10 years. That's like, holy shit, 10 years? Well, we have a fucking incredible amount of DUIs in this state. These are people that are not learning from their friends' mistakes. So I'll take it a step further. Mm-hmm. If you are drunk or under the influence, but mainly drunk, and you cause an accident and it causes a loss of life, you have now lost your privilege to legally drive for the rest of your existence. And not just in your home state, nationwide.
Holy shit!
So now the driver's thing becomes like a national registry?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't, and they'd make it so that you can't even own a car. Because why would you own a car unless you're driving it? You can't legally drive. It gets
you
to
could
a
own
point
it though
where
for
it's
somebody
like,
else in the household can drive it though.
But then you fucked up, so then you can't. You see how terrible this is for people that get into that situation? It's not like you got your second Dewey and you got a bad habit of going to TGI Fridays after work with your buddies and tying a few too many on and getting busted on the ride home by the local yokers. They're like, we know that fucker. We're going to get him again. This isn't, you didn't do anything other than drink and drive. You killed someone. Think of the lives affected. Mm-hmm. Fuck you. No driving the rest of your life. And you can't own cars. No one wants to insure you once you get a fucking Dewey because there's that risk insurance involved and the increase, especially if you cause an accident. Insurance companies don't want to pay money out. Their job is to take your money and say, if you need us, we'll be there. And then they go, but there's this fine print that says, fuck you. So, no.
And what little we pay out, now we're going to drop you afterward. Yeah.
Yeah.
Insurance is a scam. It's a racket.
Right. So I'm trying to have plausible real world consequences. Like, I can't drive ever again. Well, you killed someone. Mm-hmm. So you're going to prison for a while. But even if you do your 10 to 15 years or whatever it is, I'm just spitballing a number here. Even if some states are so fucking ridiculous, they only have you do 5 to 8 years. You're getting out, you can't fucking drive. How are you going to work? How are you going to fucking sustain your own existence other than riding a bike somewhere?
That becomes the thing then, though. You can say that should be the solution and that should be the punishment and don't F up. Well, what do you do if you have all these people now who don't have the means to support themselves? They don't have the means to work. Now they become a drain on society in different ways, right? So you got to be careful on the things you enact and how harsh the punishment is too, because people have to be able to come back at some point from some of these things. I know what you're saying. Death, an eye for an eye, right? You don't get much of a life afterward if you killed somebody, but
not as many people kill other human beings drunk driving
No.
as much as crashing into a dumpster in an alley, like my friend from Menards, or our friend Rick James that drunkenly swerved into the ditch and rolled his truck.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't hurt anybody except his own pride.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not saying those people. You have to go to the nth degree of fucking up behind the wheel while drunk or under the influence of a substance and killing somebody before you have to live with all that shit. And guess what? You don't get any welfare or food stamps. Fuck you. If you can't deal with life, oh well, because you had all this opportunity and knowledge to not do it. Why do we fucking give kids dare to tell them what drugs are the best to do? No, that's the joke, but it's to scare them.
Do they even do dare anymore?
They do. My kids have gone through it.
Really?
Recently, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, my 11-year-old had it last year.
I can't believe it. There's some things from the 80s still around.
Yeah, they try to teach you the dangers of drugs. Yeah. So I laugh and scoff at people that get addicted to drugs knowing that they tell you drugs are addictive. Alcohol's addictive. Don't fucking do this. Then you're like, I'll be fine. How many people have said that? How many people are like, well, I can try meth once, I'll be fine. And they're fucking addicted to meth.
Yeah. But as somebody who was able to have a stronger will than I think a lot of people, I was able to do some of these things. And yeah, I did them for a period of time. But I was also able to stop. It doesn't necessarily mean that everybody reacts the same way. But I get what you're saying, right? There should be a reason to be apprehensive. There should be a reason to be careful, and a lot of people are not, especially when they drink. But here's the crux. Alcohol lowers your ability to make sound decisions, right? That's what I always thought was the kind of the catch-22 with alcohol. And then you decide that you're okay to drive home. Mm-hmm. It's like you're setting yourself up to fail on the second one, right? People go, "Oh, you should have been smarter. You should have known your limit. You shouldn't have driven." And it's like, yeah, but alcohol makes you make bad decisions, impairs your ability to make, sound judgments. So, of course, these people think they're going to be okay. So the problem really becomes, I think, societal in how we abuse alcohol. Not a lot of people are like me or you, right? I can just have a beer socially, recreationally, and not be drunk. Or I enjoy the fact I get a little tiny bit of buzz, but that's good. I'm done. I don't need more than that.
Or I just don't, and then people look at me like I'm a fucking alien when I tell them that.
You used to, especially back in our crew, back in Menards, right? Because that was the culture. Everybody effing drank to excess. So, yeah, when you're one of the lone people who doesn't need to, at a time in people's lives when almost everybody socially, it seemed like, drank in our circles, yeah, you kind of got some weird stigmas. I thought it was great, honestly.
I can't tell you how many patronizing good for yous I got where it's like, fuck you.
Yeah, I could hear that.
They're like, good for you. But it, like, their tone of their voice, it felt like they're really saying, what the fuck? What?
Yeah.
Oh my, it's fucking ridiculous. Again, I want to help there be less death. Mm-hmm. And that's why when you look at reform, what you're saying, you have to balance the ability to come back from it and the fairness of the punishment. But I'm telling you that too many people have had it too good for too long. And to quote my original co-host, Danny, do all these people really deserve democracy? If you consistently flout the punishment by laughing at the rules and bending them till they break and trying to get away with as much as you can, and you get jammed up and then you fucking play the victim, fuck you.
Or claim that you have rights, right? Yeah. After denying others their own.
You have taken someone's life with a simple decision to not just fucking let the cars in front of you be slow. And it's like, dude, you killed a father and a husband. I don't even care if he's an NHL player. It doesn't matter who it is. It's a human being, and you didn't value life enough to take the precautions to not set yourself up to be in that situation. And yeah, there's an argument to be made for it. Why are you riding bikes at night on a country road? You're kind of asking for trouble. Well, you're not setting yourself up to not be in a dangerous position, but I doubt either of those brothers, the Gaudreaus, were like, let's go see if we can maybe get run over tonight. Mm-hmm. It's fucking tragic, and I hate that we had to deal with that. And then a few days later with that Park Tavern situation, it's like,
crazy. Yeah.
This isn't a story that's unique or rare.
what was interesting about the Park Tavern story is when the first details came out, they almost made it sound like it was like vehicular, like homicide, like he intentionally drove into the crowd. And that's what I was waiting for more details. And then I didn't hear too much to follow up.
He did. He killed 2 people.
Yeah, I was going to say,
but
I thought there was a
injured
second.
like 4 other fucking nurses.
Yep.
These are nurses, man. You didn't like drive around a corner too fast and run over 3 crack dealers fucking playing a game of dice in the hood.
Yeah.
These are people whose job it is to make other people feel better and possibly save lives. And it's like you took their life. And that's why all these examinations of criminal justice that I pose with morality, I just think if it was me and I don't drink and I'm out for a walk to clear my head and some asshole just pounded a 40-ouncer and he's driving to go to the store to get something as inconsequential as, say, cigarettes, and he kills me, that's 4 children that no longer have a father.
Right.
So why the fuck should you only have to do X amount of years while you have taken from them one of their main providers, one of their main sources of comfort and protection?
Right. The course of the trajectory in the course of their life is forever affected, right? And so how do you put a value on that, right? How do you put a punishment that's worth that? I think it's hard for a lot of people to understand, and I don't know if a lot of victims, family members of victims, right, ever feel like the punishment is enough.
Yeah. It fucking sucks is what it does.
Yeah.
Interact with the show on Twitter, What Do We Call It? That is What Do We Call It? You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm Jmann.
This is Steiny.
And that's the end.